the emergence of new ideas and revolutions in science and so on. But what made it such a compelling project, I thought from the beginning, was that you could structure it like a thriller, right? It's literally a story of a detective in the streets of Victorian London hunting for a killer, except the killer is not Jack the Ripper, the killer is, a bacterium. And so by taking what was really a story of kind of scientific discovery and, overcoming the orthodoxies of the day with a radical new proposition that ends up changing people's lives for the better, but dropping that into the structure that people already recognize of detective fiction, effectively. That was what made that such a I think, powerful formula, and certainly what drew me to it intellectually.
In your latest talk at TED, which is based on the extra life work and thinking that you've done, you were trying to argue what to some ears would have seemed like the world's most boring idea, which is that actually for real public health innovation, we, big bureaucracies, government, etc., can actually play a crucial role. And so you didn't start by saying that. You started, if I recall, by saying, yeah, so there was this thing that caused millions of deaths, in the 18th century, 19th century, and the way we solved it was milk. These were words that had not been uttered before in a TED Talk, and so just talk through the rest of that story quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, milk was a major public health threat in the 19th century in big cities. I mean, in London and particularly in New York, where you had all these people. The problem with the 19th century is that the cities just grew so fast, and they had not yet developed kind of modern infrastructure. They had to kind of invent that stuff on the fly. Cholera was part of that problem, and milk was part of that problem. And so when you had cities that went from 500,000 people to 1.5 million people in 30 years, it was just an enormous problem. And getting people, there was no mechanical refrigeration at that point, and so getting milk to people, particularly young kids, for them to drink, particularly with a lot of women going to work in the industrial workforce in that period, was a major problem. And so in the mid-1850s, something like 50% of all the deaths recorded in New York City were kids under 5 years old, and many of them were killed by contaminated milk. So it was just a major problem. And what I was trying to argue, both in the book and in that TED Talk, was that the traditional way